Rashi, Parshas Balak. We continue with our story, the sixth reading and continuation of Bilam, the non-Jewish prophet that is hired to curse the Jews, but in the end blesses the Jews. We continue with the blessings. Okay. We are in chapter 23 of Bamidbar in Numbers, verse 27. Balak el Bilam, and Balak said to Bilam, Balak, who's the king of Moab, he said to Bilam, Lachanom, come now, and I'll take you to another place. Right? In other words, you've been. This is already on. One second, what was yesterday? Already, yeah. Already, really two times. Two times already that he hasn't cursed, and blessings have come out. So now he says, I'm going to take you to another place. Okay, and perhaps it will be it'll be okay in the eyes of God, and you'll be able to curse from there. You'll be able to curse them for me from there. Curse for me. Rashi says, Ein ze lashon tzivi kamay bekovnai. This is not the word. The term over here is not a command, an imperative that you must curse. Ela lashon osi, but a future tense. Ulai, perhaps yishabe'enab kabos l'misham. In an old French, Maldiros Lou. In other words, at this point, he's saying that things ain't working out the way he had hoped. Balak, that curses. Yeah, maybe from there. Let's try. Verse 28. The Yikach Balak is Bilam. So Balak took Bilam Reisha Peor to the peak, that top. Reish is the head, right? No. The top of the head of Peor. He's going to bring out and that overlooking, right? That it is overlooking on the face of the wasteland. Pnei comes further upon face. Okay, Rashi, Reish HaPeor, Kesim Godol Hayabola. Balak was a great diviner. We had that already yesterday, right? In the similar circumstance of taking him to a different place to curse. He was a great diviner. He foresaw that the Jewish people, they would in the future be stricken through Peor. But he didn't know exactly. A diviner doesn't mean that they know the details necessarily. So he didn't know the details of what would happen, just knows from there. So, well, let's focus from there. So perhaps he thought that the curse upon the Jews would come from there. So it's similar to all stargazers. They see things, they see configurations, they see things, but they don't know exactly what they're seeing, right? And that's exactly what happened over here. So Bilam said, El Balak to Balak, so again, this is the third time, build for me for this 7 altars, and prepare for me. The word hoche means to prepare for me, for this 7 bulls and 7 rams. Balak, and Balak did kasher amar Bilam, as Bilam had requested of him, so he did. And he offered the bull and the ram on each of the 7 altars. Okay, chapter 24, verse number 1. V'yar Bilam, and Bilam saw. He toiv be'enei Hashem. What did he see? That it was good in the eyes of God. Baruch es Yisrael, to bless the Jewish people, is the Israelites. He saw that it was good. V'loy halach kipam bepam likras nachashim v'yoshes lamid ba'panav. So he didn't go after kipam bepam as time and time, meaning as he did once and again, right? To turn to divination, right? To engage in divination. And he placed his face towards the desert. He turned toward the desert, and he faced towards. Okay, Rashi, or verse number 1 in chapter 24. Oh, okay. All right, good luck. Okay. So Bilam Kitoi. So Bilam saw that it was good. Amar Eini Tzarich Livdei B'Kadosh Baruch Hu. I don't need to check with God anymore. Because at this point he really knows that he doesn't want to curse them. God doesn't want to curse the Jews. Right? And so he didn't go as in the past. Kasher also he did two times beforehand, right? Likras choshim, to seek. How's it translate over here? Practice divination. Okay. In other words, to predict by omen that God might happen to him as he wished, right? He was hoping to find the moment that God would be upset with the Jewish people, and that moment would be the opportune time to curse the Jews because God's upset with the Jewish people. So, right, to predict that is Amar, right? He said, whether or not he wishes to curse them, ask Rabbanai Sehem, I will mention their sins, v'tochel al haskoras ha'aveira, and the curse will automatically take effect by mentioning their sins. So he did not practice it as he had done once before, right? To try to bring out their sins. No, he's not going to do that. Yashis in the midbar, kitargumay. This is understood in the translation of Onkelos. That he turned his face towards the calf that the Israelites made in the desert. That's what Onkelos, how he. Right. So in other words, instead of seeking to curse them, I'll just mention their sins. right? And then, it's like, any parent that, dealing with their kids and they just mention what they're wrong that they did, all they're going to bring is more, negativity. So that's what he figures. Peace of Bilam is saying, he raised Bilam his eyes, the Odyssey Israel, and he saw the
Yeah.
Israelites. And he saw the Israelites, Sheikhin Lishvata, that they are dwelling according to their tribes. And now the Spirit of God was upon him. It's interesting. This is the first time it's saying the Spirit of God has descended upon him, right? The other two occasions, even though he does mention blessings to the Jewish people, but now it's the Spirit of God. Let's see Rashi. So he raised his eyes. He wished to cast an evil eye upon the Jewish people. And as a result, now you have three of his character traits. Ayin ra, evil eye, which is here, right? Ruach gavaya, that he has a conceit, that he's conceited when he wanted greater ministers to come, and offer him the job, greater dignitaries, right? The beginning of the parsha, but nefesh rachava, and that he is greedy, right? That he felt that he was worth, he's worth a whole army. Which we learned earlier. Sheikh and Lishvata, was he see that they're dwelling according to the tribes. Ra, Kol Sheva V'Sheva, he saw every single tribe, Sheikh and Latzmei, that they are dwelling to themselves, and they're not intermingled, right? Rosh and Pischeihem, he saw that the entrances of their dwellings, that they're not facing each other, the doors to their dwelling, and not in order not to peer into another's tent. Other words, so what does he see? That Israel, which is singular, Sheikhin is also singular, right? Is Einav. The Sheikh and the Shvata, that they're dwelling according to their tribes, not only, but that they couldn't peer. Another is there was modesty over here. Everybody wasn't looking into the other. It was modesty. And the Spirit of God descended upon him. All of the Levi now, that the Spirit of God was upon him, he aligned himself and decided not to curse them. He aligned himself with God and decided not to curse the Jewish people. And he raised up his metaphor. He began to recite his metaphor, and he said, this is the words of Bilam ben Baor. This is the word of Bilam, the son of Baor. And the word of a man with an open eye socket and one seeing eye. Shesum ayin. Okay, well, let's see Rashi over here. Yeah, the Isa Bilam is Eina, Vikishnach. So, um, B'nai Ba'or. So in verse number 3, that he's the son of Ba'or. Kamar Lamaina Mayim. Ben Ba'or, similar to the words of the spring of water. I don't know what Rashi means by saying that. Midrash Agada, but the Agada explanation is Shneihem Ahayu Gedalim Ma'abesehem, Balak and Sipor. So both of them, right, Bilam and Balak, they were both greater than their fathers. Balak ben Sipor. Balak was the Sipor Avi ben Malchus. So he was greater because he was a king. Balak, or Bilam, Gadol Avi ben Nevius, and Bilam was greater than his father in prophecy. Mana Pras Haya. He was a mana, meaning a large sum, the son of Paras, half an amount. Uh-huh. I'm not exactly sure how he gets it out of the words there. Okay, Shesui Ma'im, right? That his eye was dislocated. So his eye was dislocated and like moved, and therefore it looked like it was always open. Belashon Mishnahu. This is a term from the Mishnah. Sheyishtaim yistaim v'yigoiv. Rabbeinu Amru. Our sages say on this in the Talmud, Lefisha Amar, a mitzvah is Reve Yisrael, as since he spoke about the blessings that God sits and counts the relations, marital relations of the Israelites. She'akadosh Baruch Hu yeshiv remainer revi'asem shel Yisrael, masay taiva tipa sheneiler atzadik mimena va'amar belibai. So when will the drop of seed come from the righteous man that a righteous man will be born from this righteous seed? Right. So he said to himself, Bilam said to himself, I'm a believer, me, Shua Kadosh Baruch Hu Shmar Savel Kadeshim Yistakal Bedorim Halalu. One who is holy and whose servants are holy pays attention to such things, like the relationship that the righteous husband and wife have. Like, what kind of God is this? So Al Davar Shabilam, that's why his eye was blinded. Very interesting. In other words, like, God, this is what you're watching. Like, which is interesting because in the nations of the world, relations between husband and wife are just like at best a necessary evil. And from a Jewish perspective, it's called Holy of Holies. So, it's the opposite. In other words, it's a place to bring holiness. It's not a place where it removed from it. And therefore, at best, necessary evil. So he saw it in such a way that it was, it's a necessary evil. Why is God this is what he's looking at? So he got blinded because of that. So there are some that explain that Shesuyim, open-eyed, as Targum Onkelos explains it. So since it says open eye, not open eyes, plural, means he was only blinded in one eye. Okay. Verse number 4. Ne'um, the word, Shemeya, of the one that hears Imre Kel, the words of God, Hashem Machse, who sees the vision, Jagai, the vision of God, Yechezeh, he sees, Machse, the vision, he sees the vision of God, Neifel Goli Einayim, lying down with open eyes. Okay, what is this? Neifel Goli Einayim. He's lying down with open eyes. So Pshutei Kitarguma. The simple meaning is Onkelos translates that what? She'ein nira alav ela b'layla kishu sheichem. The God only appears to Bilam at night when he's lying down, right? When you go to sleep at night. In other words, not during the daytime because of the evil person, right? O midrash, right? The midrashic explanation, kashaya nigla Allah, then when God revealed himself to Bilam, he didn't have the power to stand on his feet. And he would fall. The fisha haya aro. Why? He didn't have the power because he was uncircumcised. And it was a repulsive thing for God that he should appear to him as he stands upright before him. It's, you're an uncircumcised, individual. Right. And what's going on here? Okay. So this was something disgusting for God that he should reveal himself. So, okay. Now, what is it that he's going to say that's going to be with divine prophetic vision? That is very powerful. And this happens to be the very first things that we say in the prayer service every single morning. And what does he say? How good are your tents, Yaakov? Yaakov, meaning the Jewish people, Mishkanei Secha, Israel, your encampments, Israel. Remember, those are the two names of the Jewish people, Yaakov and Israel, Jacob and Israel. Rashi in verse number 5. So, how good are your tents? Remember, we said earlier, he spoke about the dwellings of the Jewish people. So what's so good about their tents? Because their entrances are not facing each other, right? In other words, there was modesty between them. And because it was modesty, that's why the presence of God rested upon the Jewish people. Mishkanai Secha, your dwellings, Chaniyais Kitargumai, means your encampments, as Onkelos translates it. Davaracher. Now he's going to give another explanation of what this means. First one is simply, that the tents of the Jewish people, they were modest. So what does it mean? Oyalecha, right? Means the tent. What tent? The tent of Shilai. Because and then the eternal house, meaning the holy temple that was in Jerusalem, right? Because they bring offerings of offerings upon sacrifices upon them to bring atonement for themselves. Mishkanei Secha. So what does it mean? This is your dwelling, right? So the tent refers to both 369 years that there was in Shiloh, and then there was the Holy Temple, two of them in Jerusalem. First one was 410 years, second one was 420 years. So what's Mishkanei Secha? Afke shehem charevim, even when they are destroyed, right? Lefi shehem mashkin alehem. Now the word mishkan eisecha, like it's like mishkan. Mishkan is a for the word tabernacle, right? But the root of the word means also a pledge. Like if I borrow from you, you know, if I borrow $100 from you, here I'm giving you this silver goblet, right? That as a pledge that that I'm going to pay back the $100. So you hold on to this until that's the idea of what a pledge is, right? Not pledging money, but you're pledging something as a actually the way we would translate it is collateral, right? Um, so but that's the root of the word. Mashkin alehem v'chorbanam kapara ala nefashes. So even when they were destroyed, these dwelling places, they become a mashkin, they become a pledge, they become a collateral in their destruction, right? For an atonement for the Jewish people. As it says that God vented out his rage. And how did he vent it out? He had to stage for the B'tzion that ignited a fire on Zion. In other words, he took it on instead of destroying the people of Israel, God vented his anger on the wood and stones and destroyed the holy temple instead. So, yeah, I hope that was clear. Yeah, is that clear to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, verse number 6. Kenechilim neto'u Higanis oloi nahar Eihalim nota Hashem karasim alei mayi. So kenechilim means streams. I tell you they will extend keganis oloi like gardens. Alei nahar by the river. Eihalim like tents. What's aloes? Halim. It's a fragrance. It's something that gives a fragrance. Not Hashem Ka'arazim, the God planted like cedars. Alemayim by the water. Okay, let's see. Rashi on this. We definitely need Rashi. Verse number 6. Like streams that extend, that are lengthened and drawn out afar. So our sages said, from the blessings from that wicked man, Bilam, right? Our sages say, we learn, what was in his heart that he wanted to curse the Jewish people. When he said, I'll direct my face towards the desert, right? And then God changed his words, right? Remember we said earlier in the first couple of verses, right, that he faced towards the desert in order to see referring to what happened in the desert of the golden calf. So he'll mention the sins of the Jewish people, right? So that's what he did. And then it was transformed. God transformed his mouth, and he blessed him. Similar to those curses, that he wanted and wished to say, as it's in the Talmud. Second. So how good are your tents and your meaning that the divine presence should not rest upon them. That's what he wanted, right? Because there was no place to study Torah and to pray to God. And in the end, he blesses them with that. That hmm. Okay, not exactly clear how this is from what he said earlier. Okay. Ka'ahalim, ketargum. This should be understood according to Unkelis' translation, a similar term to males, Meyer, and Alos. Not to Hashem Eden, the Garden of Eden. God planted in the Garden of Lashon Acher. Another explanation of what this means. Ka'elim not to Hashem. The Shamayim Amesuchim Ka'ehel. It's like the heavens that are stretched out like a tent, right? So he stretches out the heavens as a tent that's spread out for a dwelling. Not to Hashem. So what does it mean here? Lashon netia matzino. This word netia we find in connection with v'ita ayala dena, that he pitched his ladial pence. I mean, it means like to spread out. Medallia from the wells. Okay. Oh, sorry, that's the next. Okay. These are mayim. Medallia zarabamayim berabim biyaram agag malkei v'sinasim malchusay. So water will flow from your wells. Your seed will have abundant water. Your king will be raised over Agag, and your kingdom will be exalted. Okay, so this is like, let's see in Rashi, some future stuff. Medallia mibe'eres ve'eshem ketargumay. From the wells, it's as Unklish explains it. The king will be anointed from the descendants will become great. This is an expression of some of success. There's a sense it will be like the seed sown over the water with great success. Will grow great things. Okay. So this is the Melech Rishon and the first king, Shalahem, of the Jewish people. He will conquer Agag, who's the king of the Amalekis. Right, that's King Saul, Shaul HaMelech. Sinatse Malchusay, and his kingdom will be exalted. Shall Yaakov Yeser v'Yeser Sheyavai Achar of David Shleimer. So kingdom will be even more so thereafter through David and Shleimer, King David and King Solomon, that they will rule after Shaul, after the kingdom is taken away from him. Okay. Okay. 8. Kel Mitzvah Mitzrayim, a God that has taken them out of Egypt, the strength of loftiness, Yeichal Goyim, that will consume the nations, Sarav, that are his adversaries. And the skin of their bones and the dye his arrows with their blood. Oh la la. Rashi number 8. Yeah, God who brought them out of Egypt, so it's who brought the greatness to the Jewish people. It's God who took them out of Egypt. And he brought them out with strength and exaltedness. His strength and exaltedness. That will give them the power that they actually God, he will destroy the nations who are God's adversaries. Shel Tsarim, and their bones of their adversaries. Yigarim Menachem Loshin Shvira. So Menachem, the son of Sarok, he explains this meaning that the word Yigarim will cause them, it will meaning to break, cause them to break. So I say that this is, it means a bone, not to break, but it means a bone. You're just showing how that means bone. Uncle is Tirgem, Machitza Shel Tsarim means that the divisions of those who are adversaries. So, and there's another way to explain the word chitza means literally arrows, right? In other words, doesn't mean the division of adversaries, but it means literally arrows. That the arrows of God, who's a source of blessing, right? Evil domim will serve against the adversaries of God that will be drenched in blood of the adversaries. Okay. Verse number 9. Ah, he'll settle and dwell like a lion. Like a fearsome lion that no one will start up with. Those who bless you will be blessed. And those who curse you will be cursed. So this should be understood, crouching like a lion, like the Unkelis. That they will dwell and settle the land with force and strength. Balak. Oh, okay, this was too much. And now he got angry at Balak, Bilam towards Bilam. He spoke his kappa and he clapped his hands, right, in frustration. Bilam, and Balak said to Bilam, to curse my enemies, I called upon you. And behold, what have you done? You've blessed them. You have blessed them 3 times already. He hit one hand on the other. Now go flee back to your place. I said that I would greatly honor you. Well, it seems like God has prevented you from receiving any honor from me. You get nothing. Balak and Bilam responded back to Balak. Is it not so that I, even to your messengers, that you sent to me, divarti lemor, I spoke saying, what did I say? Imiten li Balak male beisei, that if Balak will give me a house full of kesef of silver, resolve and gold, like uchal, I'm not able lavor to transgress al pi Hashem, or the word of God, lases tova, to do good, or evil. Milibi from my heart, as my heart really wants to. Asher yidaber Hashem, that which God will speak. I say that is what I will speak, the words of God. Laver al pi Hashem, kana lenemar elokei kamei shenemar v'rishena lefi sheyadasha nivesh kadosh baruch hu b'nitzvot. Earlier he said that Bilam knew that he become repulsive before God, so he didn't say banish him from before his presence. Therefore, he didn't say my God here, just the word of God, as he did previously. All right. Amazing. Okay, folks, we'll see you in a few moments. Bye.